Jamil and also Louisa, thank you so much for being with us here tonight. I will briefly give an introduction about Jamil and also what he is going to talk about. And Jamil, since you already know, we do this event usually, or we do these learning sessions every 2 weeks roughly, invite interesting people like yourself to to give a talk to our community and to really make it very interactive and give value both to our community and hopefully to you by questions coming in from our community. I know we have amazing founders in this room tonight who are working on all sorts of problems, healthcare, sustainability, and various different fields. So to introduce Jamil, wears a lot of different hats. I think one of the things that I was most inspired by when we first met was just the sheer amount of innovation coming out of your mind, like inventing so many different things and being so, innovative. And Jamil is an Honorary Senior Research Fellow at the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering at the Imperial College, London. He focuses mainly on the research topics of brain signal analysis, virtual reality, brain-computer interfaces, and big data, and promotes brain research also as the CEO of the Brain Forum, which is a charity that brings together world leaders in science, technology, healthcare, and business to really accelerate how we understand our brains. He is also the chief scientist at NeuroPro, a company that specializes in developing cutting-edge tools in the field of neuroscience, neurophysiology applications. And he's also the chief scientist at Virtually Live, which is an immersive media company in the UK, which specializes in live events. I know that one really amazing tool that you've developed there is a screen and that detects basically my breathing pattern and then allows me to see basically how calm I am based on a picture of a sea or a lake, right? And I thought that was so amazing. And he's also the founding partner and CEO of the TechNovus Ideas Laboratory in London, which develops solutions in the fields of AR, AI, VR, AR, IoT, and other emerging technology trends. So definitely Jamil is through and through a person of innovation in the field of brain and neuroscience. And what Jamil is going to talk to us about, Dr. Jamil, I should say, is going to talk to us about how we deal with stress in our modern work life, some kind of work-life balance, I assume, and how we can especially master our own mind. So I assume you will talk a little bit about mindfulness, since that's also where we connected, right? And how we can take control of our own thoughts, shift our mood states, and he'll also tell us about his research and how he's done a lot in the field of mindfulness training, which I think is very exciting for all of us. So without further ado, I would love to give the stage to you and to Louisa, and enjoy, everyone.
Thank you very much, Julia. Before I start, I'll introduce my colleague Louisa Asta. She's the operations director, and she runs all the projects we do at TechNovus Ideas Laboratory. She's my right-hand person. We've done everything together. So she's joining me as well here. So we're gonna share some of the topics we talked about. Thank you all, really, Julia, thank you and the team at Sigma Squared for inviting me to join you. It's a real pleasure to be everywhere with everyone here. Now, as you said, Julia, my key message tonight is about mental empowerment. I'll be drawing attention to how important focus is to our mental health. I will share with you a glimpse of the work that I'm doing in this field of research. But I'll start by telling you a little bit about my background and what's behind the titles. I started my computing career as a software engineer back in the 1970s, programming the first generation IBM mainframes. And throughout my life, my work has always been in system design and software engineering. Now, in the past 45 years, I have worked on computers, some of which almost the size of a house, and others which you could wear or fit in your pocket. And it really didn't matter to me which sector I worked in. I worked in research, pharmaceutical, industrial, services, and other sectors. I've been really lucky to have had the chance with this varied exposure. Information technology is in every sector, and as such, I never really could relate to sector boundaries. I found that I was able to borrow good ideas from one sector and adapt them and deploy them successfully in another. Now, I witnessed how every facet of our life has been transformed by information technology over the last 4 decades. Today, we've never had it this good when it comes to information. It is really incredible how empowered we have now all become. We just need to look around us. We are more digitally connected than ever before, and in so many ways. Anyone can reach us now easily, and naturally, many do. There is a fierce daily competition for our time and attention, from work and personal communications to attention-grabbing headlines. Information is everywhere and in abundance. Now, many of us, including myself, feel overwhelmed at times when trying to manage everyone's expectations. This constant demand on our time is leaving us with a processing deficit and contributing to the rise of stress, anxiety, addiction, depression, and attention deficit. Information technology has transformed our life positively in so many ways. Amongst many great things, it has democratized knowledge, but at the same time, as I said earlier, it provided us with the most advanced human interruption tools ever created. Now, these tools are fracturing our daily focus and leaving us clutching to sound bites at times and often unable to restore our thought processes. They turn our days from order to disorder, leaving many of us with a processing deficit. Now, most people are aware of this, but find it hard to resist that interruption force. Resistance requires effort, and we humans by default prefer tasks that requires least effort. So I believe, it's because of that, I believe focus training is a good thing to help us optimize the effort required to take control of our lives and thoughts and lift our resilience to dealing with interruptions. It will give us back the power over our own minds. And I really believe also from my own experience that focus is an important key to happiness, since it helps us with our thought autonomy, competence, passion, self-acceptance, and most importantly, purpose. For the corporation, of course, focus translates into higher productivity and good mental health in the workplace, which is really important. Now, some researchers also are going further to suggest that we are turning our societies, in fact, are becoming desensitized. We have no time to fully process the many daily events that find their way to our minds. In other words, it's true, we are so well connected now, but in a less meaningful way. So the big question in this attention-seeking world that we live in now is how to stay focused when many demand our time. Now, studies have showed that when we focus and engage in whatever we're doing, we enjoy ourselves more. And the opposite is true. When we disengage, we find whatever we do is less enjoyable, sometimes even stressful. Let me give you an example from a study that was done at Harvard 2 years back. They did a large study on happiness and well-being. And they used an app to track thousands of volunteers. And they collected, I think, over 250,000 replies as to how each person was feeling and what they were doing at the time they were randomly contacted. So the first, not surprising result that came out from this study was that the people who reported the highest level of happiness were having intercourse when contacted, and were very focused until interrupted, that is. These people represented less than half a percentage point of all contact. But the very vast majority was in the surprising results, which showed that 50% of all people reported that their minds were wandering when contacted and were not happy either. Today, there is evidence to strongly suggest that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. The alarming rise in mental health conditions and led in recent years to an explosion of controlled clinical trials on mindfulness and other alternative mental health therapies, simply because these conventional therapies aren't working. Now, many trials demonstrated the benefits of mindfulness, not only for treating physical and mental health conditions, but also for everyday well-being. So I'm not gonna discuss these studies now, but suffice to say that if mindfulness meditation was a drug, it would be today the world's best-selling one. It would be the best-selling drug. Mindfulness is seen to be the trend that everyone's now trying to understand and use. Now, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is about increasing our mental capacity and not shrinking our thoughts. It's about tolerance and not resistance. It's about intentionally paying attention to each moment and being fully engaged in whatever is happening around you and within you. Our minds, as you heard me mention earlier, wander about 50% of the time. Now, some of this daydreaming is actually good for our brains. It fosters creativity and helps us find hidden solutions to tough problems. But there are other times when we need to calm our minds down. Times of anxiety, stress, self-doubt, when we have a peak performance, or when we need to sleep. A number of studies have shown that mindfulness meditation can help people focus their minds and sustain it. It is also evident that people who meditate regularly for years, like Buddhist monks, can outperform us in focus and concentration. Now, imagine if we could all become as good as a Buddhist monk when it comes to concentration. And imagine if we can do it in a short space of time, not 10 years or 15 years. Imagine if we can control where our thoughts wander to, like we control how our arms, our legs move. These were the thoughts on my mind, and against this background, I took interest in focus training and mindfulness. And the idea is to empower everyone with mental self-help tools that quantitatively measure in real time the level of relaxation and focus and help them in a gamified, fun way become masters of their own mind. Now, I picture designing a convenient new age, gamified mind gym for focus training for those who lack the time, means, or privilege to practice mindfulness in a pleasant, natural setting. We know that nothing replaces being close to nature when it comes to our mental health. But to many people, nature is inaccessible. In fact, 54% live in urban. Evidence suggests that even by looking at a picture of nature, people feel a sense of calm. Now, with virtual reality and neurotech, not only we can democratize nature's experience in an immersive way, but we can also allow a seamless interaction between the virtual nature we create and the mind of its observer. The neurofeedback system we developed, named the Dream Machine, actually uses these features, uses advanced signal processing technique to analyze brain signals in real time and other biodata using feature extraction methodologies, and then monitor the brain activity and curate a natural experience that dynamically reflects the user's mind state. Now, technology is transformative, and we wanted to deploy it for the good. Hence, there is an irony here that we are using technology to solve some of the problems it has caused us. So, with a talented team, multidisciplinary team, I may say, and a few years later, we are well on our way with the green mission. And I would like to share with you a small example of the mind training exercises we're doing. And the example you see here is an exercise designed to help you concentrate, and it's set on a tropical island. It's an Easter island. The mission is to use the power of your mind to clear the heavy fog on the island. Only by concentrating, you can clear the fog and enjoy the island's beauty. And if you, by relaxing and breathing naturally, you are rewarded with a feeling of weightlessness, as you can see me in the video, floating over the island like a feather in a breeze. At the end of the session, you will receive a performance score based on how well you concentrated and how relaxed you were. And the more you practice, the better the score you will get. Now, many of the treatments of mental health conditions have traditionally been based on intuitive assessments and manual measurements, often subjective as well. I believe today's wearable technologies may change that, or some of that at least, leading in the future to a more accurate and quantifiable form of measurement. Finally, let me leave you with these thoughts. We know that wellness is key to performance, and resilience is key to prevention. Now, we also know that mental resilience can be trained. And in a fast-changing, attention-driven society, learning how to meaningfully connect to the moment, I believe, is worth training for. Thank you so much. And I would like to now stop and take any questions you may have, and apologies for the background noise.
Thank you so much, Jamil. And that was very insightful, especially the demonstration. I think all of us are very curious to be eventually using such a tool. So if anybody has a question, please, if you can, turn on your video and tell us about yourself first, what you're doing, and then ask your question.
So I'm Dorina. I use a sleep tracking app since half a year. And I noticed that sometimes I wake up and feel great, and the app said that I slept shitty, and vice versa. And I wonder if you observe something similar in your area that might show that it's good in which state you are, but you don't feel like it, vice versa.
And Dorina, please don't forget to tell us about yourself as well.
Okay. I'm Dorina. I study sustainable business innovation, and I work on a sustainable plant-based milk company.
To be honest, you know, sleep is an important aspect or variable in our well-being that is so understated. And I have talked to a number of sleep specialists, and perception of sleep is not a big deal. I can sleep 5 hours and still perform my normal day, or 6 hours. When in fact, for most adult people, a minimum sleep is 7 hours to perform. In fact, I was once talking to a performance trainer, high performance trainer, and he told me, I will not take on any clients who don't sleep the 7 hours because I'll be wasting my time. So I think we really understate the importance of sleep. With sleep, if you sleep 1 hour less every day in 2 weeks, it feels like you haven't slept. You're losing 2 days of sleep. So it becomes a problem down the line in your fatigue, in your wellness, in your level of alert, and general mood states as well. But I place a big importance on sleep, and there's a lot of work going. And I think we should all look at making sure that we get sleep In fact, I read a paper recently that they're suggesting that instead of PTSD causing insomnia, it's the opposite. So people who are not sleeping and suffering from PTSD, not people who are suffering from PTSD don't sleep. So it's sleep that's causing PTSD as opposed to the other way around, lack of good sleep. So I think we need to pay a lot of importance on our daily sleep and the regulatory. You know, it has to be at the same time. It's an important. Apparently, people who work shifts, it's not so good, but it's okay. But people who have varying shifts in sleep, that is not good for their health. So if you do a day shift and then you do an all-night shift 2 days later, so you can win at 24 hours, apparently it's not good for us.
Yeah, partly. It was very interesting. My follow-up question is, I use a sleep app to track my sleep, and sometimes the result from the app is quite different to how I feel. So sometimes the app says you slept 100%, like good, and I feel like I had a really shitty night, or the other way around. And I wonder if you see like parallels to like your research or differences, or
I think you're right to wonder why, because in the end of the day, you can get all the quantitative figures, but if you don't feel right yourself, you don't feel right. So no other number is going to convince you. So why would the figures of your sleep reported show different to what actually you feel? Feeling a mood state has sleep is one factor in a mood state, but there could be many others. There could be things on your mind that still put you to sleep, but you woke up with some thoughts. So it's a very hard question. It could be also the algorithms that interpret that data are not as accurate as they should be. This is a big problem. A lot of this data, we take it gospel, it's binary. It's not. It's all, weights and weights and weights of weights and weights. So these biosensory, whether brain signals or any biosensory data, with the exception of the heart and so on, it's all averaged out. So it is not as it could come out so convincing. We struggled for years with the dream machine to try and get some meaningful quantitative values that you can correlate to your mood. So for example, if somebody, we tell him, did you feel your concentration has improved by 50%? We want to see it in the numbers as well if he validates. So these are all experimentation now. All that's biomed and wearable technologies are very much experimentations, but they will be refined. And I think it's worth trying them, especially if you think that this is something down the line may help you. But it's not a perfect science yet.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I see a comment made by Julian, and Julian, you run a sleep startup yourself.
Yeah, it's a very important field, sleep. Yeah, and I think having startups that give us this is preventative medicine.
So my name's Beth, and I run Patchwork Hub, which is an employment platform that connects employers with professionals looking for work opportunities outside of the conventional 9-to-5 office job. And I started it because of my own disability and wanting to create an accessible platform for people whose circumstances prevented them going into the office and working a 9-to-5 and sort of pandemic. But this is a topic that I'm just so interested in. I've got fibromyalgia myself as well, so I'm really interested in sort of neuroplasticity and like that side of it, and the sort of the power that your mind has. So I think particularly for entrepreneurs, it's with everything that you were saying about sort of how demanding different things of your time and everything is, that happens even more so I think with entrepreneurs, because there's obviously so many things that need to be done. I just wanted to, outside of the sort of technology and the app side of it, in terms of like how how you'd recommend, I appreciate this is a very big question, but how you recommend sort of like taking those steps to sort of manage your thoughts. I know I'm very much like this, where it's often so difficult to do that. And even though the intention is there with all of the apps that I have and the things, but then in the reality of it is often quite different when the demands of the day come about. So yeah, I just wondered if there was any sort of advice you had or anything. It would be great to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, and this is the big question that everybody, because that itself, when you feel that you've been overwhelmed in a day, that generates, it's like a chain reaction. So things go wrong, maybe then you have a conflict at work because of this. So it's a chain reaction that leads you to a negative mood state. And neuroplasticity is our biggest weapon to fix ourselves. This is our best weapon for our mental health. I believe we've been given a mental, like dough or plasticine and a physical plasticine, and we can do whatever we want. Today, it will take me 6 months to become double the size of I am. I could get stronger, I could be fatter, I could be thinner, I could be muscly. It's in my hands. Equally in our mind, it's in our hands. Because nature, we're blessed. There's 83 billion neurons working in concert without touching each other, connected through synaptic connections with no point-to-point, so they're all dynamic pathways. All this to make us who we are. So, and we know from neuroplasticity, the only part of the brain scientists agree, all of them, about. Everything else, there's a dispute. Where is memory? Where is consciousness? How do we store the language of the mind, our signaling language? But there is another problem, with our mental health. There is a blind faith that the science has discovered how the brain works. And the truth is nobody knows how the brain works. We are not even scratched the surface. We can never simulate anything. There is an 83 billion servers working and consuming less than a 40-watt light bulb. Now you try and imagine 83 billion servers connected in a server farm. What is the energy consumption? And what's more, it feeds on donut and hamburgers. Yeah, we don't need high-grade fuel. So this is a magical box. And our world is in our thoughts. We could be both sitting in the same place, and the person with the positive, good thoughts see a completely different picture to the one next to it. So I think turning our energy to be constructive, productive, forgiving, mindfulness about acceptance. It's about not making judgment. He's important, I'll listen to him. He's not important, I won't. It's just being attentive to the moment. If you choose a moment, you might as well enjoy that moment. And our work at the Dream Machine is say, I want to choose what moment I want to be in. If I want to sit and talk to you, and just now, before I joined that session, I had a horrible call, I should be able to turn that thing off and be able to be fully enjoy that moment, that session with you. Most of us cannot do that today. Why? Because our mind, unconscious mind, takes over. And now imagine if every time I pick this bottle of water, 50% of the time it works. And the other, my hand goes all over it. I'll be at the first neuro clinic checking myself in. Yet our mind, half the time, is not where we want it to be, and we think it's normal. Now, it's not normal. And if we look back 30, 40 years ago, my life, when I was working on code, I didn't see the disruptions. We had time to react to everything. Now it's, and then do I see benefits? Yes, but does not justify all that mental strain, that overconsumption and over abuse of some of these technologies that we have now adapted. I personally take all my notification sounds off, not the phone, not WhatsApp. I don't want anything to ping me. When I'm ready to ping and check, I will ping. So in the meantime, I focus on what I want to do every day and put my priorities, my first 1, 2, 3 I want to do before anybody takes over my time, whether it's TikTok, wasting an hour there or whatever. It's just like, I want to get what I want to do before anyone hijacks my time. And many of us finding it difficult. Now, what we've done with the Dream Machine, we haven't reached the consumer level because the hardware of VR and neuro wearable are changing so fast. And the life cycle of these devices change. So we're working now with corporates to set up corporate programs whereby we can, because a lot of corporations, banks here in Geneva and so on, we talk to as well, some Swiss banks are very keen on working for us to try out programs where staff can go in and do mindfulness experiences using our Dream Machine. So, and the idea, instead of spending 10 years to become fully focused, through a self-taught program with our technology tools, we can get you there. So, and then you need to top it up, just like bodybuilding or the mind. That's why we think of it as a mind gym. So it doesn't mean you learned it once and you stop. Once you get into this, it becomes like, you know, if you do exercise, you think, great at me, but then 6 months later, if you don't, they're all gone. So I think this is a lifestyle change. We need to give time to ourselves and our mind and train it. Just like if we don't train our bodies, we all not, feel unwell at some point in time. And we are all mentally unwell now. Every one of us, except probably in Switzerland, I think 20% of the population, this is the happiest country on the planet, have a mental health issue. Now, if that is the happiest country suffering from this, what about these poor third world, the southern hemisphere? How much they are enduring from these things? So I think empowering ourselves with tools, with taking control, not thinking there's a blind faith if I take this pill and that pill is going to help me, because it won't, unless you're really, really sick. But I always try yourself. Start with your self-help, take control. Say, I want to be, just like you know where your legs are going when you walk. I say, I want to know where my mind is going when I'm sitting in any setting. And then you feel so empowered. And then, of course, when you look at these numbers, which is 50% of people mind wandering, imagine if we have a magic wand and lift that level to 75%, assuming all these numbers are true. Think of the world productivity. We can be more focused, especially mission critical jobs, all over, from hospitals to air traffic. Focus is a big thing. And think how better educated we will be, because we'll be spending more time on the topics we chose to be. So I think we want to bring it. So really, this is a program we're starting called Mind Your Head. But because the consumer tools are not out there, we're only introducing it to corporates. And basically, we want to work together. We're not dropping a solution on everyone. This is something that we can evolve together for the people who believe neuroplasticity and taking control of your mental health and taking the self-help route is the right route forward. And we believe that. And these are tools that we are evolving. The algorithms we wrote are all published, and there's a lot of write-ups about the Dream Machine and how we can extract. So all our scientific work has been free for people to comment and review and recite, and how our models work. So we offer, say, in various corporate floors, various settings where you take yourself, to a corner and just take 15 minutes and do some mind training. And you can get the results tracked, just like when we're talking about tracking sleep. To give you an idea, we've been running hundreds and hundreds of trials on the Dream Machine. And Louisa and I now have learned, we have like an intuition. So when somebody scores very high, I just like jump out of my seat wherever I go and see what's going on here. And all too often, the people who scoring high in the 70s have done yoga training, have done meditation, have done mindfulness, they're either yoga teachers or yoga masters. And then the people who done 20%, 25% are just like ordinary folk. So who haven't paid attention to their mental health, and they're just like, going along trying, they haven't connected enough. Now, when these guys reach to the 60 and 70 and 80%, they are absolutely over the moon. Because in our questionnaire, we'll tell them you scored 75 now and you were 25, but also we'll ask them, have you seen a physical improvement to justify the score? And if they don't, then we have got something misaligned. So these type of solutions now, and very soon, once the VR and the wearable tech BCI, brain-computer interfaces, become a bit more mature, I see them becoming a consumer product.
Jamil, do you have any recommendations around how to best build the habit of sleeping regularly? I noticed you kind of talk a lot about sleep, but I'm sure that's something that everyone's trying to figure out for themselves.
To be honest, this is an important topic, and I think it's worth, dissecting it a bit more. Personally, I mean, I haven't done personal research on sleep, but my personal experience in all my working life, and I work under pressure. In fact, I thrive on this, but it wires me up, and I've learned as I sort of build my resilience, is that I don't engage in any hard thinking after about 7 o'clock. And I try to sleep always in a set time. So between 10 to 11, and most days, I would want to be asleep. And I will not want to watch anything or engage in any activity that will heighten my sensory system. So I listen to meditative music, things, everyone has their own comfort music and chill out music and relaxation. And I try to sort of really, I wouldn't say switch off, because when we say switch off, I don't like that word. Switch off, we have a beautiful brain and we have limited time to use it. So we should using it, but we should be happy with it. So switching off is like, I'm numbing, I'm pressing the pause. I like to think of nice things, imagine beautiful things, and just actually bring myself down to a calm state of sleep. And it's hard in the beginning, but again, we are the habitual. If you practice, I find it now much easier to fall into this pattern, and getting into a pattern becomes very easy. So getting a pattern, don't think of tough talks before you go to bed. Don't engage in heavy things. I also don't eat late as well, because that really disturbs my whole sleep cycle. So I try to not to eat at least 3-4 hours before sleep, not to eat. And everyone has their own way, but we should be mindful that if we're not sleeping, we should do something about it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, waking up or sleeping at a fixed time and waking up at a similar time is, I guess, one of the keys for sure. Amazing.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question in the audience?
Hi, I'm Sean from London. I was actually wondering if you're a hardware or a software business. I saw in your deck you're partnering with IMEC, but if you're a hardware business, I was wondering how you're finding fundraising in England, because I'm also setting up a hardware company in England, and we find it quite difficult to actually fundraise. So I was wondering if you're leveraging other companies' sort of hardware, like sensing tech, to sort of distance yourself that way, or just...
Well, first of all, we can connect since you're in London, Sean, so that's great. We have an office, we have a lab with a lot of gadgets in Mayfair. Louisa is based there now, and we can chat and see. But I agree with you. First of all, raising capital in Europe, forget it. So especially for startup and venture. And if they do, they'll want the shirt off your back.
Yeah.
And of course, hardware is very expensive to actually do and redo. Now at NeuroPro and in TechNovus, we're involved in some hardware projects, but we try to keep them to the minimum. Okay. So for example, we built our own BCI. It's called NeuroPro. You'll see it on our website. But we are not so over keen to promote it simply because we haven't done anything so over creative. We are just like another headset, and that's where we worked with iMac for the electrodes, because they had the most advanced non-gel electrodes. But we are not there yet. But the challenge with the problem now is really the algorithms. You know, to wear a BCI, there's a lot of noise generated from moving about, from your body, from your jaws, from your nose, for everything, your whole muscle system, and add to it that whole movement noise. So one of our biggest problems when we're using brain-computer interfaces is the algorithms are clean, and we published a number of papers on that topic, filters to clean up this data. And then then of course the challenge to make something meaningful out of it. But we are more software focused. We built a pod now for body measurements. So it's a pod that we're trying to tackle a different industry with it completely. That requires some hardware, but other than that, all our platforms, our products, we are very much software focused shop.
Okay, that makes sense. I would definitely. I would love to connect. I think there's a lot of overlap between what we're doing. So I'll connect with you on LinkedIn and drop you my email.
Great.
My name is Jonathan. I run a startup here in Germany called Fornamics. We do forecasting for food producing companies, so they can produce the right amount of food and don't have to throw it away or have missing revenue. So what I'm really curious about, there are two things, to be honest. But first off, so this technology could really help reduce the stress in even the startup environment, which can be really stressful. So what I'm really curious is, how can I get my hands on it? What if I wanted to have like the option for my employees to come in every day and have like 20 minutes off, 15 minutes off, and relax using your like VR and software as well?
We're, if you like, at the beta phase when it comes to the B2C deployment. And the reason being because if you think how many, since the VR headsets in the last few years, how many VR headsets have changed? And every time we changed, we had to change our software, change the features, change the whole engineering. And since that area is still so immature, we slow down with trying to keep up with all this VR solutions. And we're now trying this generic model where we're working with corporations on 1, 10, 100, mind your head program, which means we go in and we show it to one person. If they like it, the person that matters in this well-being, then we'll expand the trial to 10. If they like what, then they have to commit to a 100. It's like a larger order or a larger contract for us to be able to deploy all the skills and engineering over the algorithms and give it to them in a sort of white label. For example, we're now working with one major Swiss bank. They have a well-being program, and we want to introduce the Dream Machine as part of the well-being program. So, and they have a big network internally of stress network. There's a stigma about people. Everybody can report, oh, I don't feel well, my stomach hurts. But if you wake up with anxiety and you don't want to tell anybody, if you get the sort of these stressful moments that we all go through, where you feel you are overwhelmed and can't cope with, there's a stigma surrounding that. People hide their mental weaknesses but we all have it. And I think now more corporations are realizing. When I started my career, people used to burn out in their 60s. Now people burning out in their 30s. That's not right, you know. So I think many companies, they see people as an asset, and they need to, you know, give them a better environment to work. Anything we can help. This is a movement, I think. People who are looking at this area is like these are the uncharted terrain. Where will it go? We don't know, but one thing for sure, it is the right way to look at mental health until we know more about how the brain works. We need to take charge of our mental health. And that is I think the thing I feel strongly about.
Did I get it right that the product is not accessible to smaller startups like the ones that we run, only to bigger corporates, or is there a way that Jonathan, for example, could get access to it for his employees?
The product is an algorithm that perform this neurofeedback loop and a VR interaction. For example, the experience of Easter Island is one experience. We could have the Alps and snow. So we curate many different experiences based on the corporation and what do they want their employees to identify with. In terms of the product itself, it's pieces of the product are all available. And if you come to our London lab, you'll be able to see it. This is the product in its setting. But basically, we designed this iteration is designed for a fitness center. And basically, we found from the research we did that the current VR headsets are still bulky and heavy, and people were complaining about the weight of it. So we've designed it in a way that there's a spring that can take some of the weight off without affecting your ability. You can sit on the chair and get the experience to you, like Louisa is doing now, or you can remove that chair, which is quite light, and put that mat on the left, if you see, and then do in a yoga state. And then from that point forward, the whole experience kicks in. And you have to work to get into the experience. So we give you the first challenge is you need to relax and concentrate enough to take you to the island. And the second challenge, once you get there, you need to lift your concentration to clear the fog. Now, if you would like to have something like this in your startup, yeah, we can give you work with you to put you a model similar to ours, but we haven't commercialized it where you can order and receive it, assemble and go. But for the corporations, we can actually bespoke package it. So say if UBS wants to have this in their facilities, we will then spend 6 months building all these skins and create the whole experience. But then it'll probably be a $500,000 project. So, but I don't know if you guys have seen the latest, well, not so latest now, the Oculus Quest headset. It's incredible now. It's so much smaller. It's wireless. You don't need a Microsoft operating system. So I think the hardware is maturing. We're gonna get soon to a state where everybody could buy a VR headset, put it on their coffee table next to the iPad for a different experience, and not have to worry after 3 months to throw it away at an affordable price. So yeah, I think we can, for any of you guys who are interested to have an early peep at what we're doing, providing you know what we're up against and we share with you how far we are, you're welcome to if you want to have an early stab in it. Yeah.
Amazing. Wonderful. We are perfectly, well, on time, 2 minutes after, but I think we all enjoyed the session, and thanks everyone for asking such great questions. I hope Louisa and Jamil, you also enjoyed the session tonight. And for anybody wanting to learn more about the work that they are doing, please contact Louisa at the email that she put in the chat. Otherwise, I wish you all a wonderful evening. And yeah, thanks so much for being here tonight.
Julia, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you all for taking the time and for the attention and for the questions. And I'm delighted to have participated. And we welcome any comments that you want or follow-up questions.